Trump's former Secretary of Transportation, Elaine Chao, we have learned, was under investigation for numerous ethics violations. Now, this is according to documents that were released earlier this week. Now, the Transportation Department's internal watchdog had found some evidence of these violations and referred them to the Justice Department for prosecution back in December. Now, that, of course, the Department of Justice ended up declining this as it was still under the Trump administration. Now, investigators from the Transportation Department Office of Inspector General said Chao had used government employees to perform private tasks, some of which were meant to aid her father and his shipping company, the Foremost Group. So I'm going to get into a little bit of detail about this. Now, the report said the Transportation Department staff were told to help promote the elder Chao's biography and to maintain a list of his awards. Chao also told federal employees to send a biography to the chief executive of a major U.S. corporation to request that he write a foreword, according to the report. It also noted evidence that the department's former director of public affairs had drafted and launched a media and public relations strategy in order to build his profile. Now, Elaine Chao's father doesn't work for the government. So why are government employees and government resources going to boost Mr. Chao? I got nothing against Mr. Chao, but I would rather my tax money don't go to helping someone else that, you know, with their private business. Okay. And so it also noted, that this is incredibly problematic. Okay. So it is noted in here that they found this corruption and they tried to bring this corruption to the Department of Justice, and the Department of Justice wasn't having it. And so the Department of Justice is basically went along with this corruption. I mean, using your position to boost your family and ordering people, by the way, to do private stuff for you that they have no business doing, total corruption. Total corruption. Now, another example here of that corruption, Chao had tapped public employees for personal tasks, such as arranging Christmas ornaments. Investigators said, we're paying for that. I don't want to pay for that. I don't give a damn about arranging your Christmas ornaments. Why are we doing this? Why? Now, of course, that's a small infraction, right? Worse is obviously using your office, your position, to boost the family business, and that is the major corruption here. Okay. Now, again, the Trump Justice Department refused to act on it because they don't care about corruption. And in fact, they love to use public assets in order to help their own family businesses. Trump had famously done that without any sort of reservation. And as a result, the U.S. Attorney's Office at the time stated that there may be ethical and administration issues to address, but there's not any predication to open a criminal investigation. Investigators from the Inspector General's office said. The IG's office said it looked into allegations that Chao had improperly steered resources to Kentucky, which her husband, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, represents in the Senate. However, they did not find any evidence of that. So McConnell dismisses the report and says that Chao did not steer funds to Kentucky, and so far there's no evidence of that. So, okay, if there wasn't any evidence to prove that, then all right, they looked into it, they didn't find anything, that's fine. Now, that is going to factor in later on in the story of her defense of all the other stuff. So now in her defense, Chao and her supporters would point to the areas where the Inspector General didn't find any wrongdoing and use that as an example of, well, see, I didn't do those things that were wrong, so I couldn't have done anything wrong. Checkmate, libs. Quote, this report exonerates the secretary from baseless accusations and closes the book on an election year effort to impugn her history-making career as the first Asian American woman appointed to the president's cabinet and her outstanding record. Oh, good. The Republicans are using IDPOL now. Yay. Who cares? Like, who says Republicans don't care about identity politics? They play it all the time to defend themselves. That's what they do. So, no, Republicans actually always care about identity politics. They just love to weaponize it. Now, the spokesman also declined to respond to the potential ethical problem areas identified by the Inspector General, instead pointing to supportive comments from Republicans in Congress who were totally unbiased about this, obviously, including Representative James Comer, who said in a statement that the report, quote, makes clear the Democrats' partisan attacks launched against former Secretary Chao are baseless. Ah, yes. But they just sidestepped the whole thing. You didn't address this at all. And yet they're basically the meme at this point. My job here is done. She didn't do anything. Maybe that's a bad example. But okay. Anyway, they sidestepped the whole thing. And they're basically saying because one of these things didn't pan out, well, none of them could be true. Ah, great. But here's the thing. That's not true at all. In fact, investigators described a series of potential ethical issues. For example, Chao instructed political appointees to contact the Department of Homeland Security about the status of a work permit application submitted by a foreign student studying at U.S. University who was a recipient of the Chao family philanthropy, according to investigators. That appears, of course, to be personal favors. So you can't really do that. And that is corruption. It's small time, of course, but it is corruption. In another example, Chao told government employees to include her relatives in preparations for high-level meetings that were to take place in 2017 in China, where investigators said her family members were to participate alongside of senior U.S. officials. Local officials from China's Jiangsu province and Chao's father met in her office at the Transportation Department's Washington headquarters in May of 2017 to discuss the trip, along with representatives of unspecified holding companies, investigators said. Now, the trip was ultimately canceled after people got wind of it and raised concerns, according to a report from the New York Times. Now, investigators also described Chao using work time of department employees, personal matters, again, the Christmas ornament thing, which is, again, super ridiculous. They work for the government, not for you, okay? Like, if you want a personal assistant, hire one yourself. You got the money. You got the money. I swear, Republicans love to talk about corruption in government and then prove that there's corruption in the government by doing corruption. Now, investigators also raised the issue of Chao appearing jointly on videos with her father. One such video raised particular concern because it featured the secretary talking about official matters, such as the administration's priorities for transportation, as well as commentary about the written biography of her father, according to a letter from Deputy Inspector General Mitch Bem to Representative Peter DeFazio. DeFazio, of course, was the one who raised objections in the first place. Now, the letter from Bem described the formal investigation into potential misuses of position. It was accompanied by a redacted version of the resulting report, which outlined evidence uncovered and the ethical rules at issue. Now, this seems to be obvious low-level corruption in government, using the position to benefit herself and her family business. That is wrong. You can't actually do that. You're not supposed to do that. That said, we had a president, we had an administration that was chock full of that. I mean, openly, brazenly, among doing 700 other different corrupt things, which is why it actually seems kind of tame, even though it is a clear ethics violation. And I hate to say it because this is an issue. Corruption is wrong, corruption is bad, and we should go after corruption. That said, the Justice Department didn't give a goddamn. They really didn't. And of course, understandable, under William Barr, they didn't care about this. Okay? They didn't. And they actually offered no actual response to questions on their decision not to pursue the matters documented in this report. That report and other documents obtained by congressional investigators demonstrate that Secretary Chao had used her official position and taxpayer resources for the benefit of herself and her family. Representative Carolyn Maloney said that in a statement, quote, Secretary Chao's flagrant abuse of her office provides further evidence that additional ethics and transparency reforms are needed. Now, is that likely to happen? No. No, it's really not. And understand, like, I would love for them to investigate and actually hold someone accountable for doing this type of low-level corruption. But I would be very surprised if anyone did. Oh, but come on, the Biden administration, the Biden Justice Department. I don't think they're going to care. I really don't think they care. Besides, Mitch McConnell, very powerful in the government. He might be minority leader, but he has a lot of clout in the government. And so I'm just really like, I don't think it's going to happen. I just don't think it's going to happen, and here's the thing. People in power rarely ever give a damn about any of this type of corruption. The only time that they actually care is when they can use this as a political cudgel against their opposition. Okay. And that's what I see. All right. This is what's going to end up being, we're going to use this against Mitch McConnell, which, look, is he part of the corruption? Is his wife absolutely corrupt? Yes, it is. But we should instead actually be going after these people, not because of political reasons. We should go after them because it's wrong, because it is wrong and it is corrupt, and we shouldn't have a corrupt government, but we do. And so there are not going to be any sort of real consequences to this. And there should be, but there will not be any consequences. And that is, again, because we have a fundamentally broken and corrupt system, a corrupt country. So no, I am not optimistic that Biden's Department of Justice is going to pick this up. I'm not expecting anything to come of this at all. Other than, of course, ads. Midas Touch released a new ad. Look at how corrupt Elaine Chao is, and she's the wife of Mitch McConnell, who also, by extension, is corrupt. Yes, that's true. I mean, not just by extension, but you look at Mitch McConnell's career, you can obviously see that he's corrupt. But so's like pretty much everyone else in Congress, almost. And so, call me cynical, but I don't see anything happening. I don't see the Biden administration going after corruption in government, because it's all corruption. And that's all, regardless, of the party that's in charge. There's always going to be this sort of low level corruption. And I'm not saying that Democrats and Republicans are 100% same. No, I'm not. The Trump administration did far more open, brazen corruption. But I'm saying is that, to an extent, and I really hate both sidesing this, but I'm going to have to in some form, but know that it is not equal, that it is not representative. Republicans, especially Donald Trump, is far more openly corrupt than other administrations. But also, these other administrations were still corrupt to some extent. And so that's the unfortunate truth of this. And it is really pretty depressing. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.